hints or comments, I can click on the comments. So please tell me how I should do it, what kind of products I should use, because I don't know how to. Anyways, it's been a hell of a week. We all know why. Supernatural aired its series finale on Thursday. And I don't know about y'all, but I shed some tears. I watched it here at the house, and everything kind of came flooding back. And it was really emotional for me. I don't know how it was for you guys. So I'm looking forward to hearing it. I wish I could see your faces. I know I can feel you guys. I can feel y'all watching, and I can feel like you're with me, and thank you. I feel the love, but and I hope y'all feel it back for me. In the meantime, let's see what questions we have. Steph, am I going to Rosa_T? Hi, Jared. I'm Rosa Q. What are your top 3 episodes and why they're your favorites? Okay. All right. Well, that's a doozy to start with. I am going to go with the obvious for me, which is the series finale, and that is my favorite for a lot of reasons. Most of which is I'm a fan of storytelling first and foremost, and I guess the way I figured out early in life is that the way I can be a part of storytelling is through acting, and so looking at Supernatural as a whole, and looking at Supernatural as a 15 and a half year and 327 episode story, which is like the ultimate trilogy. Like I think we put Lord of the Rings to shame by hundreds of hours. I feel like as a fan of storytelling, the finale did something that we all thought was impossible. It answered a lot of questions, and it wrapped up things in a way that were meaningful and poignant and frustrating, but wonderfully frustrating, if that makes any sense. And so I'll go with that. Number 2, I always go back to Sacrifice, the season 8 finale. To me, that was another situation where we got to see really deeply inside the boys, and it almost felt like the season 15 series finale and the season 8 finale, Sacrifice, were kind of flipped. On season 8 finale, Sam thought he was dying, and he had made his peace with it as best as he could. Season 15, we all know what happened. But also we got to see a little bit of the boys and their commitment to each other. And then after that, I'm going to go with a funny one. I'm going to go with French Mistake. Having everybody come back and just making fun of ourselves, it really stands out in my mind as an hour of television that I don't know if any other TV show could do. So those will be my 3. All right. Auxane, Auxane. Hello, Jared. I want to know if the pie scene where you put someone Dean's face was scripted or not. Love from France. Love back to you in France. It was scripted, and I got to do it a few times, which is pretty cool. And then I don't know if any of you saw this, but when they cut to Sam and he throws the pie in Dean's face, and then there's a passerby at the pie festival in the background who kind of looks and is shocked. That is the one and only legend Bob Singer. So that was a little bit of like a Alfred Hitchcock from Bob. So we had a lot of Easter eggs in the finale for you guys, and that was one of them. I'm sure some of y'all noticed, but the passerby in the background who kind of goes like, oh, that dude just potted another dude. It was the director and longtime executive producer, Bob Singer. So that was scripted, but it didn't make it any less fun. You would figure that after 6 months of quarantine, I'd have a better. I gotta do something about this hair. I have a better Zoom setup, but all right, I'll do something before the photo ops. Aline Luz. Hi, Jared. My name is Aline. I'm from Rio, Brazil. How were the first days on the set of Walker? Ben, I love you so much. Aline, I don't know how to say it. I love you back. Thank you for asking. It's been awesome. It's been strange, for sure. But it's been incredible. I feel so lucky and fortunate to be here in Austin, Texas, where I can see my kids in the morning or see my kids at night and see Jen mornings and nights, ideally. Sometimes I'm up at 3 a.m. to get off to work and don't get home till late. But I feel so proud of what Supernatural was and the way we told those stories. And so I'm hoping to recreate some of that with Walker and just keep telling stories and keep kind of hoping to entertain y'all, entertain myself, and learn through another character. And I learned so much through Sam, and I'll always take it with me. And the first, we're 4 weeks in on Walker, and I go back to work tomorrow at I think 4 a.m. Texas time. So fun times. But it's great crew, great cast, and I just feel so fortunate and blessed. So hopefully y'all guys tune into that as well. I think you'll enjoy it. Patakenga. Hi, Jared. I'm Erica. Question: how do you deal with bad hair days? Kisses from Brazil. You know how I deal with bad hair days. That's how I deal with bad hair days. I think for me, every day is a bad hair day. I don't think other than when I work, I don't do anything with my hair. I probably should. I should learn how to. But I just have always felt more comfortable just kind of tucking away in a beanie. And now it's a beanie and a mask. And so I think bad hair days, I throw a cap on. And it's different now because this is much easier to hide than the Sam do, which was, out here. So I think I think my neck where Sam's hair was long was like a baby's butt. I think as soon as I got my hair cut, it got sunburned like at midnight because it hadn't seen the sun in 15 years. And so I these days it's pretty easy. I just throw on a baseball cap or a beanie and kind of get on. Hello, back to Rio. Okay, Eduarda Aguiar. Hi, Jared. Do you think that if there was a crossover between Supernatural and Walker, Sam and Cordell would be friends? I love you so much. That's a great question. I've never been asked that question. I've never thought about that question. And the answer is absolutely. I think one of the things that Cordell Walker has in common with Sam Winchester is that Cordell and Sam are both just trying to do their best in a weird world to make the world a better place and to hopefully ease other people's pain, even though it's difficult and even though there's no perfect answer. I think one of the things that Sam and Dean dealt with was that there's not a perfect answer. There's no perfect solution where everything is just happy and rainbows and lollipops. And Cordell Walker finds himself in a lot of the same situations where there's no obvious answer. And because of that, I do think Sam and Cordell Walker would definitely understand that they're kindred spirits. And plus, they're both tall. I mean, Sam has longer hair, but Cordell would. I think they find a lot in common. Thank you, Eduarda. Judith Novotnik. Dear Jared, what is your favorite Harry Potter book and movie and spell? Much love from Hungary. Oh man. Okay. All right. For all you other Harry Potter nerds, my favorite book, God, I read the books. So I hadn't seen the movies until quarantine. I had read all the books before maybe one of the movies came out. But I remember reading the Deathly Hallows Part 2 in Vancouver. And I think I was working at like 7 a.m. and I had just gotten the book. And so I was reading it at like 2 a.m. and I was like, I'll put it down. And then I kept reading it. Long story short, I didn't sleep before set. I had to finish the book. So I do have to say, much like the earlier question about what my favorite episode was, or my favorite 3 episodes, I do feel like Deathly Hallows, I guess Part 2 for the movie, but Deathly Hallows was my favorite book. I love storytelling. And the way Deathly Hallows wrapped up that story, was just really impressive. You know, it makes you sad, and you're like, well, they're all supposed to live still, and they're all supposed to, go play and this and that. But as far as storytelling goes, and what we can learn from it, I feel like that book number seven um, was my favorite. So I guess I would say that movie as well. I guess it would be movie number eight, but book number seven. And my favorite spell, expecto patronum. I love I love the idea. I think what Sam and Dean had for so long was they were almost each other's Patronus. When Sam was in trouble, Dean was there, and when Dean was in trouble, Sam was there. Even if when Dean was in trouble, Sam was just there to tell him it's okay. Um, and yeah, you can go. So I do feel like the idea that you have somebody or something that supports you and knows what you need, even if what you need isn't what they want, is pretty powerful to me. So let's bring out those Patronus, Patroni, Patronuses, Patronisi. I don't know what's the plural of Patronus. Thank you for the question, Jordana Maria. Question: what was the craziest and funniest moment you had behind the scenes of SPN all these years? Craziest and funniest moment you had behind the scenes. I feel like there were two moments on set where, well, one moment was where I was anxiously awaiting the birth of my first son, Tom, and I was shooting with Osric. We were at the Riverview Hospital, and it's the scene where Sam is chasing Kevin Tran around. And I literally was just waiting for a phone call from Jen to say, hey, I'm in labor. And sure enough, she went into labor on that Friday. And so I think we did like one or two more takes. And then I got into Cliff's truck and we drove down to Seattle. And then I also remember when Richard Speight was directing, when Jensen's twins, he had the same situation where we're all glued to our phones, and sure enough, he gets a text like, "Hey, that was a bit of a farther travel because they were giving birth. Danielle was giving birth in Austin, and so we had to go way far away." But the same thing where getting that call, it's a weird situation to be an actor, but have something so big going on in your personal life where you want to be committed to your character, to the story, to what you're doing, to the scene, but your wife might be going to labor any second. And so he and I had those moments on set, and they were crazy and funny and hectic. And I remember before Jensen and Neil had their twins, whose birthday is coming up in a week, he came to set and we were filming like, I don't know, 45 minutes away from our places in Vancouver. And I walked up to him kind of midday and was like, hey man, you have your passport? And he kind of looked at me like, I'm not the one who forgets things. Like, of course I got my passport. And I was like, all right, well, just go back to your trailer, or when we go back to our trailers to change or whatever, just touch it. Just put your fingers on your passport. Like, just do me a favor. And he kind of looked at me like, it's a weird thing. And so then we had we had a scene, or we had a shot that maybe Misha was in or something, and we weren't in. And so we went back to our trailers, go to the bathroom, or just kind of warm up. I think it was December. And so then we get back in Cliff's truck, start heading back to set, and he looks at me and he's like, how'd you know? And I had kind of forgotten what I had said hours earlier. And so I was sort of like, how did I know what? And he's like, how'd you know? It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, do you smell toast? Like, I don't know what's going on here. And it turns out that he didn't have his passport. And we were in Canada, and Danielle was about to go into the hospital the next morning in America. So he needed his passport. And so then that started some big old all hands on deck. Y'all check the home in Austin, y'all check my apartment here. And he ultimately figured out that it had been in one of his other backpacks. I think we had gone to a convention or something. And so he had just left in there assuming he would take that bag. He didn't. And so we had to call some Austin Police Department friends of ours to let them know, like, listen, we're flying in. He doesn't have his passport. Can you help us get in touch with customs and immigration and this and that? And so it was a pretty hectic moment, but we got home in time. Spate got us out in time, and so it was a happy ending. But those were two of the craziest and funniest. Okay. Miyako Dea. Hi, Jared. I'm Nicole. If you could do SPN all over as a different character, if you could do SPN all over as a different character, who would you be and why? Hi, Nicole. Great question, especially now that it's over. It makes it a little more poignant. This is a two-part answer. Here I am. It's Sunday, and so Thursday night, Friday night. I'm 3 nights away from saying bye to Sam and Dean. And part of me, the biggest part of me, is thinking that I have to be Sam, So my answer number one is, if I could do Supernatural all over as a different character, who would I be and why? Is I would be Sam again, and I would do it all over again. And I would. And it was hard. And, there was blood, literally. There were broken bones, literally. There was sweat, lots of it. There were tears, obviously. But I learned so much from Sam, and I would do that again. But if I had to be a second character, I think, I wouldn't want him to not be on the show because he was so amazing. But I think I would love to be Lucifer. Pellegrino is phenomenal. Such a good dude. So brilliant and talented. But just seems like he made it seem like such a fun character to play. That half the time I was sitting there watching him going like, man, he's good. And half the time I was like, man, that seems so fun to play that character and to kind of have that, I don't know, storyline. So I think I would probably, I would choose Lucifer, and possibly Chuck. All seems fun. Rob is phenomenal as well. And I wouldn't be as good as he was, but I would have fun with it. And he seemed, Rob and Pellegrino both seemed like they were having so much fun with their characters. And so much fun playing that sort of dichotomy between, like, they know something you don't know, but they're going to be kind of funny about it, kind of tongue in cheek and kind of caustic. And so those two characters, I would be Sam first, and then I would want to be either Lucifer or Chuck. Thanks, Cole. J2MN fan. Hi, Jared. The You Define You campaign struck home to me. Thanks so much. What specifically inspired you to do it? Thank you. It meant a lot to me. And if I didn't just work out in my You Define You shirt, and if it wasn't in the washing machine, I'd probably be wearing it right now. The end of Supernatural was really difficult. It's still difficult. And I've watched some of the reaction videos, and I'm like crying watching people. I feel like there should be now the episode of Supernatural, the reaction videos, and then our reaction to the reaction videos. That might be kind of fun. But I was going through it was pretty difficult. We got sent home March 13th, Friday the 13th, and we had 2 episodes left to do. And I had a really tough go about trying to figure out like who I was, who I wanted to be, who I was going to be after the show ended. And I had I was living in Austin for the first time ever, even though I'd moved here, 10 or 11 years ago. But I was here with Jen and the kids, and we were all stuck at home, like we all were around the world. And I sort of had this really difficult time figuring out like who I was, because I knew that a big part of my personality was going to be gone as soon as Supernatural ended. And so I love quotes. I love books, and I love sayings, and I try to quote Shakespeare and Dr. Seuss here and there because I think they were both brilliant and timeless. And I sort of just stuck onto a mantra of like, I'm gonna define me, and I needed that at that point in time in my life, and I needed it since, and I needed it before and didn't realize it. And so I think for me, it was more like, as opposed to feeling like I was going through something negative, I wanted to remind myself that I was going through something positive, and that I would come out on the other side the way I chose to, and that I wasn't going to be kind of doomed to be what bad people on the internet say, or what the business says, or yada yada yada. I could pave my own way, much like Sam and Dean did, and so that just kind of it clicked with me a lot. So I'm glad it meant a lot to you too. Hannah with like 35 H's. Hannah, ha 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 ha. Hi, Jared. I'm Anna. Wait, your name is Hannah. H H H H H H H H H H H H H H. Hi, Jared. I'm Anna without 1,000 H's. Cool. How did you start your acting career? Wow. Well, I acted in high school. I acted in school, like middle school. I did plays, and high school as well. And then between my during my junior year, I auditioned. I went to LA during my spring break as a senior in high school. I'm kind of going all over the place. All right. Between junior and senior year, I was working at a ranch, Holt Ranch here in Texas, and I won a contest to be a trophy presenter at the Teen Choice Awards, which just meant that I basically handed off a surfboard, which I have one here, which is kind of neat. Hold that thought. Look at this. So, kind of fun. So here I am in my office in Austin, and I have my I had to take it down because I was like, it's too colorful in the background. But there it is. So I won the chance to be the first trophy presenter at the Teen Choice Awards in '99, and that's my 2015 Choice TV Actor Fantasy Sci-Fi, which is pretty cool. I've never used it, but I would like to. Anyways, so I met an agent out there, and then auditioned over tape. Like my mom would film me sitting on the couch, and I'd be reading through scripts. And then I got a pilot, and I used that money. I was supposed to go to UT and be an engineer and kind of like engineer pre-med, like my brother. And I got Gilmore Girls. And so I stayed out there, and Gilmore Girls is supposed to be a few episodes. And I was thinking like, oh, cool. Like I'll use this money to get a car or to pay my dorm bills or whatever. And then it carried on, but I found my way back to Austin. So I'm pretty happy about that. Alice Marchenko. Hi, Jared. What is always on your Thanksgiving table? What traditions does your family have from Ukraine with love? Hi, Alice. Hi from Texas. Hi to the Ukraine. I'm dying to go to the Ukraine. What is always on your Thanksgiving table? So obviously turkey, as much as possible. Stuffing, pumpkin pie. And then another thing I always do on Thanksgiving, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, even though we are not doing so hot this year. We've had some injuries, and it's kind of sucked. It's really sucked, actually. But it's usually, here's something kind of funny. So we would always do Thanksgiving dinner or Thanksgiving meal midday. Like we would eat Thanksgiving, our big Thanksgiving dinner, meal, whatever you call it. Our Thanksgiving table would be like around noon. And so we would eat and eat and eat until we were miserably full. And then we would sit on the couch and watch the Cowboy game and take a nap. And then we would wake up and make leftovers with what we had just had a couple hours ago, and we would always make nachos, and not good nachos. Like we would just get tortilla chips and grated cheese and put it in the microwave, and so we'd end up having like turkey nachos later that night. So turkey and nachos is always on my Thanksgiving table. I hope you're well in the Ukraine. That's so Ravina. Hi, Jared. I'm Ravina. Hi, Ravina. I like what you did there. That's so Ravina. That's so Raven. I like it. See what you did. Pretty good. Sending lots of love from Chicago. I wish we could have gone to Chicago. I miss Chicago. I love Chicago. Hi, Ravina from Chicago. How would Sam Winchester spend his time in quarantine? So I think we saw how Sam Winchester would spend his time in quarantine. Sam had that giant library there at the Middle Letters, which no longer exists. How would Sam spend his time in quarantine? He would do a lot of reading. He would plow through all of those books there in the Middle Letters library, and probably walk around the. I think he would maybe have like a little pedometer watch that tracks your steps, and probably make sure that he got like 20 or 30,000 steps every day. But he would sit there and he'd be fine. Sam was an introvert and enjoyed his alone time. And so I think he would be doing a lot of what we saw there in that final episode. He would do some laundry, he would take a shower, he would do some reading, and I think he'd enjoy it. Okay. Nikki_MB. Hi, Jared. Lots of love from Nicole in Puerto Rico. Hi, Nicole in Puerto Rico. Which country would Sam and Dean like to visit on vacation? Puerto Rico, for sure. I think one of my regrets. I think one of my regrets is that Sam and Dean never got to go to their beach vacation they wanted to so badly. And so I think that Sam and Dean, if they could have found a demon or something in Puerto Rico, then they'd have been there like that. I'm not sure if the car could have gotten there, but maybe they'd find a way to drive. They'd find some floaties or something for the Impala to to cross the ocean. So thank you, Nicole. Kalista is less than 3. I don't know. I know it's not called is less than, but hi, Jared. Thank you so much for the beautiful finale. Were any lines added or ad-libbed by you two? Yes. Yeah. A lot of me. So, Andrew Dabb and Bob Singer are phenomenal and did a great job trying to do the impossible. And I think they did it. And there were some scenes. There were some things that occurred to me that I really wanted to touch on. One of the things, a little like Easter egg that we had in the barn scene was at first when Dean says to Sam, to keep on going, and it was written, Sam says, I can't do this without you. And it occurred to me that I thought it'd be neat to kind of have a throwback to the pilot and say, I can't do this alone. Like Dean said to Sam outside the Impala in the pilot. And then for Dean to say, yes, you can, like Sam said to Dean in the pilot. And then for Sam to say, well, I don't want to. And that harkened back for me to the way we all started. Another thing that I really thought was important was that the first things we ever saw Sam and Dean say to each other on camera, obviously they had grown up together, but the first thing Dean ever said to Sam was, "Hey, Sammy," and the first thing Sam ever said to Dean was, "Dean," because at the time they were in a fight and in a dark apartment, and so I thought it'd be really neat if the first words Sam and Dean ever said to each other on screen were also the last words. So when we're on that bridge, and Dean says, "Hey, Sammy," and then it cuts to Sam, and I'm dressed like as best I could, like the pilot with Dean, you know. And then a few things there in the barn scene. We talked with Andrew Dabb and Bob Singer a lot, and we just said like, "Hey, you know, are y'all okay if we kind of see what makes sense, what we're feeling, repeating lines here or there, or just kind of going with the flow?" And you know, at that point in time, when we shot that scene, uh, you know, Jensen and I knew Sam and Dean in a way that no one else could. We had lived with these guys for 15 and a half years, and so we felt really strongly that, and we did the script as it was the script, but we would do little bits where we would try and do something that was like meaningful to us, or helped convey a message that we were trying to convey. Um, also, I really, it was really important to me that the last words Sam says to Dean, I'm getting emotional. When Sam says, "It's okay, you can go now," I thought that Sam's son, Dean, needed to say those exact same words to Sam. And that was Sam's cue to go like, "All right, it's time." So, yeah, there were a few things that were really important to me. And those were a few of them, but there were probably more, but for now. Thank you, Kaylista. Lauren _ Nicole. Hi, Jared. I was wondering if you could talk about the Easter eggs you and Jensen put in the finale, like Sam wearing Dean's watch when he died. Oh, you saw that? Yeah, yeah. So I just talked about a few with the lines, with kind of giving an homage back to the pilot with "I can't do this alone." Yes, you can. Well, I don't want to. And ending with "Hey, Sammy and Dean." But yeah, you saw so Jensen and I are both big watch fans, and we thought it would be something that Sam would have kept and worn, Dean's watch. And I'm glad you saw that. I didn't know any. Well, whatever. I mean, it was right for Sam. Sam would have changed his watch to Dean's watch. And so it's neat that you saw it. Good eye, Lauren and Nicole. Good. I'm glad that conveyed. Sam Liquor 81. Sam Liquor 81. Okay. Hi, Jared. Sending love from Korea. Okay. How did you feel about Sam's ending? Sam Liquor 81. Hi, back to Korea. Wow. I've had almost a year and a half to think about Sam's ending. So I know a lot of y'all found out about it 3 days ago. I found out about it June of 2019, and so I've had a lot of time to think about it. And at first it was probably a little jarring, a little abrupt, a little I mean, I guess how would you feel about anybody's ending? And I don't want to answer a question with a question, but let's say hypothetically you were told how you would pass. Would you ever be okay with it? You'd be like, well, either you die happy in your sleep. And you're like, well, I want to go out in a blaze of glory. Or they're like, you go out in a blaze of glory. And you're like, oh man, I thought I'd be peaceful. And so there was a finality to it that no matter how Sam had his ending, it would have been difficult to kind of wrap my head around. Once I did digest it and spend, hours and days and weeks and months and over a year with it, I truly feel that it was the best way to tell Sam's story. And Sam tried to live his life the way Dean would have wanted him to live his life. In honor of Dean and his request and his sacrifices, Sam tried to do as best he could what Dean would have wanted. If Dean would have come back to life 20 years later and Sam was still hunting, I think Dean would have been pissed off. Been like, man, I told you, like, go live your life. Like, we didn't fight all the, lay your weary head to rest, and so I really am passionate about Sam's ending being proper. And that's what Dean would have wanted. And that's what Dean fought for. That's what Mary fought for. That's what John fought for. That's what Bobby and, Sheriff Jody and Donna, and that's what everybody, Castiel, Jack, that's what they all fought for, was the idea that whoever was left could live as, normal a life as possible. So I'm very happy with Sam's ending, as happy as you can be. Debbie_Reed. Hi, Jared. Any other props accidentally end up at your house after shooting ended? Yeah, I'm looking at a bunch, actually. I'm in my office in Austin, in my house, and yeah, I have some stuff. One of the best things I have, my dear friend Jason, who was my stand-in for years and years, and sometimes photo double and sometimes stunt double. He did this for Jensen and for me. And the very last thing, after Bob called cut on the last scene there on the bridge, Jason had, unbeknownst to us, that morning he had gone to the store, or whenever he went, he got 2 picture frames, and we didn't realize it. We were distracted. We were shooting the last scene and we were sort of like emotional and trying to keep it together. And Jason got 2 copies of the last call sheet. So our final day of filming, our call sheet, here's when you're due at set, and here's hair, makeup, and wardrobe, and here's our location. And then he had taken our tape marks, and I was always red. So my T's that I had to hit, my mark, were always red, and Jensen was always blue. And Jason, when we didn't know, had gone and taken them up and put a red tape mark on a call sheet and framed it and given it to me. And he had taken a blue sheet, Jensen's blue tape mark, and put it on a call sheet and framed it and given it to him. And so that's really meaningful and powerful to me. Yeah, that's one of the many things. I have a few cool things. I can't say on, but yeah, some of the stuff accidentally ended up here, including Paula sitting in the Bia_Damanelli. Hi, Jared. How different is it to be an actor and a producer at the same time? I'm so excited for Walker. Thank you, Bia. I'm super excited, and I know y'all will love it. It's a really awesome show. It is different. It's really interesting. Jensen and I, we weren't called producers on Supernatural, but we certainly, by the end there, by the last 5 or 6 seasons, we had such an understanding of the show and of the way things work that we were able to be, pseudo producers, though not in title, but a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. We did a lot of what Jensen and I did for several years because we didn't really have a creative producer on set after Kim Manners died. We had producers there, but we didn't have full-time producers, creative producers there in Vancouver on set day and night. And so we naturally kind of took on that moniker, I suppose, to some degree. So it's really different, but it's fun because it's amazing. But one of the great parts about it is that you really get to, I think I've done 400 episodes of television, and I've bled and I've sweat and I've cried on set for 20 plus years, and I've learned a lot of lessons, some by accident, some on purpose, a lot of them the hard way. And so I feel like I'm able to, as a producer, help guide the story and guide the pace of production the way I know would be best for the show. And so it's really exciting. And I can't wait to show it to you guys. We were hoping it would already be airing, but then we had this whole pandemic and stuff. So we'll get around to it. Andy Moon. Hey, Jared. Andy from Greece here. Any acting advice you want to give? I'm studying acting and would love to hear it. Andy, hi from Texas. Hi to Greece. I would love to be in Greece right now. Acting advice. I think acting advice is difficult because everybody is a different actor or actress, you know? And so I think if I did have any advice, and this is going to sound really weird because acting is in a lot of ways trying to be somebody you're not. But as far as my acting advice, and I'll clarify, but don't try to be somebody you're not. I know that sounds weird. But there are things that you, Andy from Greece, have experienced that I have never experienced. There are things that you have been through that I will never go through. And so don't try to be me. Don't try to be Jensen. Don't try to be Misha. Don't try to be Alexander. Don't try to be Pellegrino or Shep or whoever. Just be you and figure out what story you want to tell. And remember that you're there to tell a story. And so commit to that and commit to who you are and who you have been, and never forget that there are things you've been through and will go through that nobody else on the planet has been through or will go through. And so don't discredit yourself from that, and try and in some weird way, shape, or form, try and give that to your characters and kick some ass. Christina M. Hi, Jared. What is your favorite song that reminds you of Sam? Well, I guess right now it's pretty obvious to me, Christina M. Carry On Wayward Son by Kansas, especially having just watched the finale and having watched some of the reaction videos to the finale. It's such a powerful song. And I think, I've enjoyed the song long before I was on Supernatural. I was a fan of the band and a fan of the song. But now that the show had been over for 2 months and I was able to watch it as a fan, it just occurred to me how wonderful that song is, not just as a song, but also for the show and for the story we were telling. And the other day on the way home from work, Cliff and I were in the truck driving home and here in Austin, and we put it on and just listening to the lyrics. I'm like, man, it has such a deeper meaning now that we know what we know. And now that the show is over, to look back and to really listen again and listen as a fan. Yeah. So I'll go with Kansas. Magdalena WW, can you talk a bit about the pre and post COVID scripts and the changes made? Yeah. I guess I'm allowed to do this now. Well, no one's told me not to. They can't fire me anymore because the show's already over. Can you talk about the pre and post COVID scripts and the changes made? So the biggest deal with the post COVID scripts is that when COVID happened and when we got back to Canada, there was a mandatory 2-week quarantine. And so we had to, and as a matter of fact, the last virtual convention we did, we were both mid-quarantine and we were sitting in our apartments in Canada. And I think we had like a week left until we were going to film the final 2 episodes of Supernatural. But because of that, there were going to be a lot of beloved characters that were in heaven with us. But that was just, it was just a scene or two. And so when you think about a lot of the other cast that's been a part of the show forever and ever, they have kids and spouses and jobs and mortgages of their own. So you couldn't really ask, Rob and Richard and Samantha Smith and Jeffrey Dean to come sit in a hotel room for 2 weeks just to be in one scene. And so that was the biggest change that I know of. I don't imagine I'll get in trouble for that. Whatever, it's too late anyways. I already said it. So neener neener. But yeah, those are the biggest changes. Is that heaven, the heaven that Dean deserved, was filled with a lot of people from Dean's past. As it worked out, it kind of worked out like a happy accident because the show, again, talking about storytelling in general, the show started out Sam and Dean. That was the show. That was the pilot. That was the first couple of seasons. And it was always about Sam and Dean. And Dean said it himself in the barn. You know, when it comes down to it, it's always been you and me, meaning Sam and Dean. And for it to end like that full circle was pretty magical storytelling. So maybe it ended up the way it should be, and maybe we get all of us together for the reboot. Stacy Klobnik. Hi, Jared. Thank you for everything. What is the one thing you will miss the most? Good luck with Walker. Thank you. The one thing I will miss the most. God, there are a lot of things I'm going to miss deeply. You know, I think the one thing I'll miss the most, it's hard to say one thing. I'll miss our crew a lot. I'll miss the family, you know. And not taking away anything away from our Walker family, but just, you know, you make lifelong friends over 15 years, and just catching up with them, just feeling that comfort, just feeling that familiarity. You know, if Walker goes 15 years, I'll be 53. So it's very different going from 22 to 38 than 38 to 53 or 54. And so I grew up a lot on Supernatural. You know, I met my wife, and now we've been married 10 years and have 3 kids. And so I've been through so much. I have so much history with a lot of those people. And it's also weird shooting Walker in COVID times, because everybody's wearing masks. You're not supposed to get close to anybody. And so, you know, for 15 years, essentially for 325 episodes, when you get to set, you're hugging everybody. You have that human contact. And, you know, when someone's had a tough weekend, you can go and give them a hug and talk to them and say like, hey, you know, you all right? Like, I'm thinking about you, and check it in. This will change. This too shall pass. But for now, it's just different. It's different. So I'll miss you guys. You know, I mean, I hope we'll do this again in person and see you guys. You know, I miss human contact. And I miss the ESPN family, both, you know, behind the cameras in Vancouver and behind the scenes in Chicago or Vancouver or New York or Toronto or, you know, Jacksonville or Tennessee, wherever. Okay. Oxane. Hello, Jared. How did you prepare to shoot Dean's death? It must have been very hard and emotional. You were brilliant. Love from France. Merci. I'm sure there's a better way to say it. It's not Oxane. I'm sure it's Auchan. Auchan. That wasn't me farting, by the way. This was my chair. How did you prepare to shoot Dean's death? How could you possibly prepare to shoot Dean's death? You know, we shot that scene in September, and I had been reading it. I had known about that since, you know, June or July of 2019, and I've been reading that scene since February. You know, because we were supposed to shoot in March, April, and so I had a lot of time to kind of deal with it. And a lot of what that scene was, even just watching it, that wasn't acting. You know, like I knew the lines left, right, and center. I could have done them in my sleep. I might have. I asked Genevieve. I mean, I may have been saying them in my sleep. I knew all the dialogue. I knew the blocking. I knew where we were. But it was just most of the time on set was spent like trying not to cry, you know? And the way so that barn scene, it was a huge fight scene. And I know it only lasted whatever 30 seconds on camera, but it was a massive, massive fight scene. We actually shot in that barn for 3 days. We shot out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, uh, like the first week of September, whatever that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was. And Bob, Bob's done this for a long, long time, and he was intelligent enough to go like, hey, we're going to shoot all the walking into the barn stuff, all of the fight stuff, and then we're going to dedicate one day to once Dean has been impaled. Because if you try and go and do a fight scene for 6 hours and then get into the super emotional stuff, like, good luck. Like, you're gonna be, you're gonna feel like you're actually dying. And so he let us do it on that Friday, the Friday before we wrapped. It was really difficult to prepare. I just tried to read it over and over again. And I think, and this sounds really weird, but I tried to read it so much that I got bored. Like, I wanted to get bored with it. And that sounds really strange, but it was so emotional to me. Every time I read the scene, I cried. Literally every time I read the scene, I'd be on my treadmill and my kids would come in and be like, Dad, breakfast is ready. I'd be like, and so that was Jared crying. And I didn't want Jared's emotions to get in the way of Sam's journey and of Supernatural's story. And so I tried to just go through it over and over and over again. And it was a difficult scene. It's still difficult to watch. And I've watched, like, this morning, I woke up early because I couldn't sleep. And I was watching a few like reaction videos, and just hearing the scene in the background of the reaction video, I was sort of dusting away tears. Okay, thank you. Chiara Avancini. Hi, did Sam tell his son about all the hunting stuff? Is that why he got the Winchester's tattoo? Or did Sam tell him to get it tattooed? That's a great question. Yeah, Sam told his son. Yeah. Of course he did. He told him about his uncle Dean. He told him why he was named what he was named. And he also told him the importance of taking care of himself, and not spending his life saying goodbye to friends and family. And then his son just wanted to get it tattooed. So that's a great question. Shahargrenberg. Hi, Jared. I'm Shahar from Israel, and I'd like to know if there's a show you would have wanted SPN to cross over with. Hi, Shahar. Yeah, there are tons of shows I would have loved for Supernatural to cross over with, and I feel like Supernatural could have gotten away with it because, I mean, if we can play ourselves in French Mistake or be on a game show or a CSI Miami and changing channels, then we certainly could have gotten away with doing a crossover. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it would have been kind of a funny moment to cross over with Walking Dead back when Jeff was on it, because that could have made for some good moments of Sam and Dean seeing John, and John not necessarily knowing who these guys are or why their hair is so long. We talked about doing an Arrow with Amel for a little bit. There were tons. Maybe someday, if people are interested, maybe we can do like a reboot, and part of the reboot is kind of a funny crossover of a few shows that have been gone for a while. So those are the ones that come to mind.